Hello, I'm Jonathan Carr-West. I'm Chief Executive at the LGIU, and welcome to our latest interview with a local government leader. Today, I'm joined by Councillor Michael Mordey, who's the leader of Sunderland City Council and has been since May 2024. Councillor Mordey is a lifelong resident of the area, and he's dedicated his whole career to serving his hometown, which I think is really interesting. That's a sense of place, and we're going to hear a lot about that. He was first elected in 2008, representing the Hendon ward. Before stepping up as leader of the council, he was the deputy leader and he was a cabinet member for city services. Councillor Mordey is also a prominent figure in the North East Combined Authority, where he focuses on the sort of big picture of regional finances, infrastructure, investment. As we know, that's one of the most interesting combined authority areas in relation to all of those issues. And above all else, as we'll hear, Councillor Mordey is passionate about transforming Sunderland in an inclusive way that connects all of its residents with new opportunities. And in this conversation, we're going to get into some of the details about how he has been doing that and how he plans to keep doing that. Councillor Mordey, welcome to the LGIU Leaders Series. Delighted to have you here. You've lived and worked in Sunderland your whole life. How has that shaped your vision for the city and your approach to leadership?
Well, thanks very much for the invite to join you this morning, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here. Fundamentally for me, I'm proud to be from Sunderland. I'm born and bred here. My family's lived here for multiple generations. So when I had the opportunity to join the council way back in 2008, it was about from a sense of wanting to do my bit to help my first and foremost, my local area. I'm proud to be from Hendon. I've represented on the council for many years. It's where I'm born, bred, and where my family still lives today. And it was about a desire to do my bit, to join in, to add my voice to trying to improve things for the local area. And as I've moved up through the ranks at the council, I've been able to use that passion for the city to help drive some of the very brilliant economic regeneration that we're seeing now in Sunderland. So it's a very proud moment for me, for a young lad from Hendon, growing up in a single parent family, to get this opportunity to lead my city. It's a very proud moment.
Wonderful. And there's a real sort of authenticity to that brings to leadership. But I was just wondering why, there are lots of ways in which people can, you talked about that sort of sense of public duty, of sort of serving your area. But of course, there's loads of ways in which people do that. Teachers, activists, community workers. What drew you to the council as the sort of institution, as the vehicle for sort of delivering that sense of wanting to help your area?
Well, I've always been someone who's been willing to stand up, to see things and to challenge those in power. All the way back from when I was at school, I was my form's form rep, because it was me that they would push forward to say, we don't agree with this, Michael. Do you want to go and tell the teachers and try and find a solution for us? But I really got my start in local politics through one of the last Labour government's New Deal for Communities project. I was a young person's rep on the Back on the Map board when I was 16, 17. I'm a big believer in fate, and just by chance, when I graduated university, there was a vacancy in my local ward for the city council. So I was approached by the party to consider standing. So really by chance, that was why my opportunity came on the council. There was a vacancy in the ward. I threw my hat in the ring. What I would like to hope was a bright-eyed young person from Hendon that's grabbed them and pushed them forward, and then 18 years later, the story's written itself. But yeah, it was really passion for my local area, the fact that I had a kind of a smaller profile through Back on the Map, but fundamentally fate, a vacancy on the council that came up just at the right time.
Yeah, so sort of intent and serendipity coming together and sort of creating a moment and then seizing that moment.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was way back in 2008, I think. Over the course of that time, we're going to talk a lot about the sort of neighbourhood working. How have you seen the local government sector change its approach to neighbourhood working over that time? And what were the sort of, as you went, working your way through the council, what were the sort of lessons and observations that you were sort of clocking as you went along and sort of percolating in your mind as you went through that career?
I think my whole time on the council has really been shaped by austerity. So when I first joined, we were just hitting the financial crisis, and obviously 2010, Gordon Brown's government lost the election, ushered in the coalition government. which embarked on a whole period of austerity, and things fundamentally had to change because we were just hit by budget cut after budget cut after budget cut. So we had to fundamentally reshape how we do a whole host of services. The impacts of austerity were really striking, particularly in the first couple of years of the coalition government. I remember one year, I think it was just after I became a cabinet member, 2014, 2015, we had to take £42 million out of the budget in 1 year. And obviously I was a city service cabinet member at the time, so effectively environment, transport, planning, a lot of the frontline services.
Some of the hardest hit,
Yeah. Some of the stuff that people see, they feel, they touch every day. Everyone gets the bins collected, everyone drives on the roads, everyone sees the potholes, everyone uses the parks and the open spaces. And not being able to provide the services that we used to do. I often use this quote, people demanding in 2015, 2016, even now in 2025, 2010 levels of service on 2025 budget levels and staffing levels. And it's been a difficult time. So as a council, we tried our utmost to kind of make the cuts in the back office, not to hit the front line. But inevitably, as austerity went on for 10, 15 years, had hit the front line. We introduced fortnightly bin collections. So really, it was a difficult time fronting up national government cuts on local authorities. And I tried to explain that to residents, how their youth club that I went to as a kid is no longer there because the funding has just dried up, and how the grass in the park that was cut on a fortnightly basis is now cut on a monthly basis. And the bins that were collected on a weekly basis are now getting collected on a fortnightly basis, or the street bins are getting collected on a monthly basis. And just trying to have that conversation with the local residents and trying to explain the decisions in the context of national cuts was a real wake-up call. And it was really difficult. But I think as long as you can sit down and have open, honest conversations with the resident, explain the context of why you're doing it, the principles of which you're trying to carry out your duties as a council, you can often take the community along. Not everyone's going to agree with you all of the time, but I think it's really important for local authority councillors, but in particularly leaders, to stand up, to front the decisions that you're making, to explain why we're doing these things, but more importantly, try and bring the residents along, try and co-produce as much as possible. So that's my approach to both being a councillor and now a leader, is to try to co-produce as much as possible what we do as a council here in City Hall with the residents out there in the communities.
Absolutely. Because then even if people, there'll always be people who want you to do more or who aren't happy, but at least they understand the trade-offs, at least they feel they've been involved in that conversation, that they are to some extent, or as far as possible, owning the decision with you. And I think that's been the story of, in those years since 2010, all councils have been really hard hit by budget cuts, but some councils have done better than others at that conversation with residents. But you've got that story going on throughout your local government career around really tight spending reductions, making those tough decisions, back office cuts to some of those universal services that, as you say, the things that people notice most, which are not, as we know, the things that councils are spending most on. But there's also, another story in Sunderland which has had a huge amount of national attention, which is about really successful regeneration, from city centre redevelopment, investment in housing, digital infrastructure. How did you balance those two sort of realities? And what do you think are the ingredients for making that regeneration inclusive?
I think fundamentally we have to listen to and involve the residents in what we're doing. So we set out on the Riverside Sunderland regeneration programme a number of years ago. We realised that our city centre, like other similar cities to us, wasn't the economic driver that it was. It's been accelerated in particular by COVID, with the move online effectively being accelerated by 5 to 6 years because of the pandemic. And so we took a decision that we really fundamentally had to change the look and the feel and the makeup of the city centre. So we set about doubling the number of people who live in the city centre and doubling the number of those who work in the city centre. So we've set about on a programme of working in partnership with the private sector. We took a punt. We funded ourselves the first building on Riverside, the Beam. And we then partnered with LGIU, who came in with a significant investment, the biggest investment at that point in the city, in Sunderland, in the city centre in particular. We're trying to tell a story about why we're doing this. Why is the new officers coming up? Why is the new infrastructure? We've just opened Keel Crossing, our £31 million bridge in the city centre, connecting both sides of the river, trying to expand the perimeter of the city centre. So we're trying to tell a story about what we're doing, why we're doing it. Because fundamentally, we recognise the city centre as a weakness, and we know that when big retail chains like Debenhams close nationally, it has an impact here locally. But these are long-term ambitions. So we've been on with Riverside now for nearly 10 years in the planning stages, but it's really starting to bear fruit. But fundamentally, it's about listening to the city. We want to create jobs, we want to create opportunities. We've partnered with Sunderland College, and we've developed the Housing Innovation Construction Skills Academy, which is a new college, one of the 10 government new technical excellent colleges. So we've got jobs, we've got skills, we've got housing, and it's really about fundamentally reimagining what Sunderland City Centre is now, but more importantly, in 5, 10, 15 years' time. And hopefully that can then drive an economic revival in the city centre as more jobs come in, and then we attract the better shops, you have footfall, there's an economic boost to the city. It's a multifaceted jigsaw, but I think we've been really clear with the city about what our ambitions are and how we're setting about trying to achieve them.
So what I find really fascinating is that the sort of thread running through all of that, whether you're talking about how often you cut the grass in the local park, or, multi-million pound investment in the city centre, the thread running through all of that is storytelling, is conversations, is that sort of dialogue with the community and with residents about, what are our ambitions for the place? What do we want? What are our aspirations? What are our needs? But also, what are the trade-offs we need to make to get there? And that seems to be sort of underpin your whole approach across all those things.
It's not just my approach, it's been the approach from the Labour group over many years. We fundamentally, our guiding light is that we are custodians of Sunderland. We don't have a birthright to lead the city. We are custodians of it. But ultimately, the people of Sunderland are the boss. And everything we do is guided by their input, their feedback. So we try as much as possible to speak to listen, to engage with the residents of the city and take their feedback and put that as a fundamental bedrock of everything that we do moving forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me about neighbourhood working specifically. I know that you have area plans which are looking to sort of really strengthen that placemaking work to emphasise partnership working. Can you tell us a bit about that strategy?
So our area committees in Sunderland are what I like to call the crown jewel, and it's one area we've strived our utmost to protect through all the austerity cuts. So to me, the area committees, we have 5 in the city. They're based on neighbourhood areas. So we have the town of Washington has a committee, the Coalfields, Hetton Horton, Shiny Row. Then we have 3 in Sunderland: Sunderland North, Sunderland East and Sunderland West. And each of them are made up of 5 electoral wards. Every elected member for them wards sits on the area committee, irrespective of party. This is, to me, the fundamental reasons why they've been so successful. Yeah. Is that we take a conscious decision, not just from the Labour group, but from the Liberals, from the Conservatives and from the Independents who have come in times, is to leave the politics at the door. We all have the same budgets, and then effectively we come into them area committees as representatives of our residents, not as representatives of our political party. But we sit down, have institutions sit on them boards. So Gen 2 is our biggest social housing provider. We have representatives from the voluntary community sector through the kind of linked but separate area VCS networks, where they come together on a monthly basis and talk about issues that affect the voluntary community sector. And then that feeds up into the actual area committee itself. The police come along regularly, the fire service come along regularly. And it's all about creating a co-produced neighbourhood plan underpinned by, at the minute, £500,000 per area neighbourhood funding that the council provides. And this is about getting projects and policies in place that benefit local residents. So the council has our city plan, we have our corporate plan as a corporate organisation. But I think the fundamental success of the area committees is that these are bottom-up. These are fed in by local resident priorities, by voluntary community sector priorities, by elected members in their day-to-day work in the community through their word surgeries, their walking word surgery, the door knocking. It all feeds in to this overarching area plan which is about trying to make small but impactful decisions that impact residents' lives. So one thing we talked about was delegating a quarter of the highway maintenance programme to area committees. So then we, as councillors, can supplement the wider city highway maintenance programme with requests. We all get them as councillors about potholes and footpaths. So we've got an ability in Sunderland for local councillors to feed in directly to that highway maintenance programme with a protected quarter of the budget in each of the areas. And then we can effectively add streets or footpaths to that programme. So it's about devolving as much as we can to the local area and the local ward, but more importantly, it's about empowering the local councillor to be a leader of their place and giving them a budget and some influence in directing projects and policies in their local area. By in turn, the local residents feel empowered.
Yeah. So those area committees have funding of their own, 500,000 each, that they decide on, but they also, you have some sort of ring fence bits of the overall council budget that they can impact on that. I find that really interesting in a completely separate context. In one of the counties that's going through local government reorganisation, I was chairing a meeting around neighbourhood working. And there was a lot of, do we go for area committees? Do we go to towns and parishes? How do we do this? But the overwhelming view was, whatever we do, we have to make sure that it's not just a sort of talking shop on the side, that it connects into what the council actually does. And what you're describing is a really effective model for that. They're not kind of just self-contained bits that sort of sit off to the side. They actually feed into the sort of operation of the whole corporate body. It's really interesting.
One of the examples, it's not in practice now, but when we were going through the big austerity cut that I mentioned earlier around the 42 million take out, we changed the way we did our local environmental services. So we give each area an area response manager. It was effectively their role to manage the local environmental services in that area committee area. And then we sat down over a period of 6 months with the local elected members in that area committee. We designed cleaning schedules and levels of, so if a shopping area gets a high footfall, well, that might need to be cleaned 2 or 3 times a week or 2 or 3 times a day. But maybe somewhere that's less impactful, we can come round with a mechanical sweeper once every month. So it was about using the local intelligence on the ground from the local elected members through their experience in their patch to create a kind of mosaic of cleansing and scheduling as we were effectively taking a huge chunk of money out of the budget. So it was about being more responsive to the local areas instead of just saying, right, on every Monday this street gets swept at 9 o'clock on a Monday, when in fact it might not need sweeping. But the other parts of the borough, the ward, where you might need to be in every day. So you kind of give everyone the same level of service, but there's an overarching level. But then it's about fundamentally getting around the table with the local elected members who know their patch and design a service that effectively hits the budget outcomes, but also keeps the place as clean as possible.
I think that's so interesting because you talked earlier about co-production, and it's a really good example of that. So it's, there's a sort of democratic benefit to it. You're bringing people with you. You're kind of, you're responding to people's needs. But also, I think what's really important there is people often, I think about that kind of neighbourhood working as a sort of luxury kind of thing. Like, but what you're describing is it's actually also a way to pursue efficiency and manage spending across the whole council, because you're designing services, you're targeting services to where they're needed and not putting extra resource in where it isn't needed. And I think that's really important, that it's not just a sort of nice to have thing. It's actually part of how you do business effectively.
Yeah, I've said previously, to me, the area committees are fundamental way of ensuring the voice of the resident through their elected members are heard, but also have a direct impact on the services that we provide. Yeah. So we were very keen a number of years ago to move away from the title of a backbench councillor, because in Sunderland we're all frontline councillors, because we work on the front line with our communities, co-producing things, advocating for change. So we were very keen that local elected councillors across of all parties are frontline members working directly with officers, with cabinet members, with the leadership team to co-produce policies in their local area that have a benefit for their local residents. And that's the ethos that we've tried to, as a golden thread, run through everything we do here at Sunderland City Council.
Yeah, that's amazing. And look, I know that you recently got a chunk of money, £500,000 or so, from the National Lottery Heritage Fund to help people sort of connect, sort of connection with nature and well-being. How does that fit into this picture?
We're always delighted when we get any pots of money. The Nature Towns and Fund, we were delighted. I think we're one of only 19 areas to receive this funding. But to me, it's the fundamental point of let's sit down with the residents and co-produce where we spend this money. It is only a small pot, but it's welcome. It will have an impact, but we really want to see how we can work with our residents to connect to this. We have some wonderful assets in Sunderland. I know if people are watching, they might not know we're a beautiful city by the sea. We have an amazing coastline. We have a fantastic river that runs right through the heart of the city and fantastic country parks and open spaces. So we're going to sit down in the next few weeks through my cabinet member for environment and transport net zero, and we're going to sit down with all the interested parties, all the interested groups, and again co-produce how we spend this money. So it's not going to be us as Sunderland City Council saying we've got this money and we've decided how we're going to spend it. We want to sit down in a collegiate way with all the interested parties and talk about how we apply this funding to get the best outcomes and connect the most of our residents to the fantastic natural assets we have in Sunderland.
Yeah, it's a co-production, but as you say, also really important to be sort of build it, everywhere in the country has amazing things, and identifying those assets and what is it that's special about this place and how do we build on it has to be part of the approach that we take across the country, I think. That's why local government is so important, because you can't do that from an office by the Thames. You've talked powerfully about your approach, about the neighbourhood working, about why you think it's important and how do you measure the success of it? Is it about outcomes? Is it about relationships? Is it about community confidence? You're going to tell me I know there's all of those things, and they're all important. But how do you go about kind of assessing it and working out what did really well? Where are there areas where we could improve? What's the sort of evaluation process and all of that? What makes you know it's working?
As you say, I think it is multifaceted, but to me it's always about what the impact it has. Are the people of Sunderland, the residents of our city, happier, healthier, do they live longer? And I appreciate they are more longer term ambitions, but to me it's around the feel and look of a place. So it's about the impact. Some things we've done, I'm not going to sit here and say everything we've done over the last 15 years has been roaring success. Some have failed, but it's about recognising when something's not working, getting around the table, talking about why it hasn't, and changing, not just doing something for doing something. But to me, I think the fundamental impact of all the regeneration we're doing, the neighbourhood work, and it's about the impact it has in our local communities. Do people feel that their area is safe, it's clean, it's tidy? We can measure that is through, we have a resident survey every year, and we're starting to see now an uptick. We're still below some of the LGIU averages for some of the resident surveys, but we've seen significant jumps in the last 2 or 3 years from if I'm completely honest, a very low baseline. But we've seen significant jumps in general satisfaction with people's local areas. So it's about having impactful decisions that have been co-produced that you can measure in the short, but more importantly in the long term.
Yeah. And look, this is not very scientific, but I think you can always tell with things like the area committees. I go around the country a lot. I go to a lot of these things, and you can tell just from the way people are engaging, from the atmosphere in the room, whether people, people keep showing up. People keep showing up and keep engaging if they think it's a thing that has an impact and makes a difference to anything. If it doesn't, it soon trails off. And we've all seen those meetings where it's sort of 2 people and a dog sitting there, sort of not really engaging because they know it makes no difference. And you can tell when a group like that is vibrant and engaged. And you mentioned this earlier as well. You talked about it being a long-term project. Health, prosperity. These are not things that you kind of measure change in a day or a week. Tell us a bit about your sort of overall ambition. You talked earlier about regeneration, about a 5-year vision, a 10-year vision. What's that like for you when you think about what do you want Sunderland to be like in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? What does that look like?
So we've got I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now the strapline we're using in our city plan about Sunderland being an international connected city with opportunity for all by 2035. So Chief Executive will be happy that I've managed to that.
So that's it. That's the vision.
But to me, fundamentally, it's about, if you're born in Sunderland today, when you reach 18, 21, you've graduated university, can you pursue a career in Sunderland or the wider region that will enable you to hit your life, career, professional goals. That's the ultimate ambition. It's about creating the opportunity, because for too long, my generation, I hope, will probably be the last generation where you go to university, you want a high-flying job in finance or in the arts or whatever it is, and you have to look to London, Greater Manchester to effectively excel as a career. I want that. I want my generation to be the last generation of people growing up and saying, I have to leave Sunderland or leave the North East to fulfil my ambition. So we've got the building blocks are in place now. As I say, we've got HICSA, which is the Housing Innovation Construction Skills Academy, which is pioneering ways people will learn skills for the construction trade. We work very closely with Nissan. We've got Made North East again. It's a skills program around advanced manufacturing. We're pioneering Crownwork Studios, which is hopefully going to be on the ground early in the new year. A whole new industry in the high-end film and TV that it being created in Sunderland. It's going to absolutely revolutionise our local economy, but the regional economy as well. 8,000 jobs. And so to me, it's about ensuring that a kid born in Sunderland today, when they reach adulthood, they have opportunities to work in a fulfilling career, live in a decent home in a thriving community with access to good schools and good education opportunities for their kids and their family. So yeah, that's fundamentally what I would. If I look back in 20 years, 25 years, and we've achieved that, I can say, job well done.
Yeah. And look, and we know, of course, that would be great for Sunderland. It's also great for the country. It is one of our productivity, one of our growth challenges as a nation is exactly that it's too clustered. People have to move. People don't have that opportunity in the places where they grow up, and that the impacts of that are far-reaching. You talked about the region. I was just wondering, we're running out of time a little, but I would like to just ask you a little bit about how you see. We're really interested in how local authorities and combined authorities work together to make the whole more than the sum of the parts. And I know that in the Northeast is a really good combined authority, really well run. Some really interesting work going on. How do you see that relationship evolving, and what does success look like in that for you?
To me, I think fundamental to the success of Sunderland is the North East Combined Authority being successful. It's definitely the direction of travel that the government want to go in, but fundamentally, I've always been a strong advocate of devolution because I strongly believe that you make better decisions if them decisions are taken by people with skin in the game. And if we can devolve as much as we can out of Whitehall and Westminster into the regions, and as long as we have strong local authorities, which is the bedrock of a strong combined authority, and you've got a good working relationship between the mayor and the council leaders, and by extension the teams and the cities, we can, if we grasp this opportunity, really drive innovation, investment and transform. Particularly transport is a key one for me, and that transforms the opportunity and life chances, because fundamentally I think as councillors and as leaders we sometimes get hung up on local authority boundaries, but you talk to the average man, woman in the street, they don't know once they've crossed from Sunderland into County Durham or Sunderland into South Tyneside. They just want to get on a bus and go where they want to go and go to the jobs here. So they might live in Sunderland and work in Newcastle. So it's really incumbent on us as regional and local leaders to get this right. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity with significant investment devolved to us. And if we get this right, and I would say we are, I think we've got a brilliant mayor in Kim McGuinness who's worked brilliant with our council leaders. It's a cross-party cabinet, but fundamentally we understand that the things we are trying to do is not for the benefit of a person or a party. This is the benefit of the region. And for too long, we've always complained about the fact that we had to jump on a train and we had to go to Westminster with cap in hand, saying, can we have? Now we have the money, the resources, the powers in the region. It's not about can we have, it's can we do. So it's about moving now from, we've set Necker up, it's working well, allocated a lot of money in a lot of brilliant things, and it's about moving into delivery mode, and it's about bedding these in, because we've got a unique opportunity in the next couple of years to really drive forward the region as a whole, because the North East often feels left behind because we're so far away from London. I often joke about people getting out of past Watford and thinking they're in the north, but sometimes we struggle to get past the M62. But we've got a brilliant mayor who is well connected, well plugged in, working well with government. We're really excited about the single settlement that's coming. I think that's going to give us some more powers in the region. It's going to get us out of the silos that we've kind of been plugged in, and we can move a little bit of transport money to skills and etc. So to me, that from April next year, when the financial year starts, that's going to have a fundamental issue, giving us more power in the region to design and co-produce and to bring forward policies that will have a real impact on all parts of the North East, from Berwick down to Barnet Castle and everywhere in between.
Yeah, I think that single settlement is potentially just a game changer. Really, really interesting and really important. I think that as we roll out sort of strategic authorities across the whole country, that people look at places like the Northeast where there is effective working across the region, across the combined authority and the local authorities, because I think what you say is absolutely right. It only works if you have a good combined authority, but also strong local authorities as constituent parts of that, and they all work together. That, I think, is going to be one of the defining edges of what happens in the country over the next few years. So look, that's amazing. So just to finish us off, if you were talking to, so imagine, yourself as you came out of university, you saw that opportunity open up in the council, you got elected. What would you say to someone who was in that position now, who was or someone who was thinking about it, maybe saying, well, should I put myself forward? What can I make a difference? What would your advice be to someone entering into local government now?
Go for it. It is a hugely rewarding career. Even when you first start out, you can fundamentally have an opportunity to shape your local area and your local city. It can often be difficult and it comes with a lot of challenges, particularly online. But in my experience, the good often outweighs the bad. And it is a huge honour to be selected by the 9,000 residents in your ward to be their voice in the council, on City Hall. And I would just say, do it, because if it's not you, who is it going to be?
Amazing. That is an amazing note to end on, because we so often get, rightly, we talk about the challenges, we talk about the difficulties, but the opportunity, the possibility, the sort of excitement of it is really important as well. Councillor Michael Mordey, leader of Sunderland, very grateful for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. It's been a pleasure.